As he walked into the bank, the trolley wheels squeaked. Everyone was looking at the man who was pulling the cart behind him. The woman behind the counter couldn't believe what he said. How many people were inside? He had saved pennies for 45 years, which was most of his life. He never knew how much money he was going to make. Arthur Anders served as a director for the Jackson School District. He devoted himself fully to his profession since he really enjoyed it. He enjoyed taking care of the kids since they all seemed to like him. The 73-year-old man had his own family. But his wife couldn't help but wonder about one thing he had done for 45 years. The hobby became an obsession that took up much more of his free time than what his wife liked to do. Finding a lost or dropped pennies was a message from God to be grateful. A misplaced or dropped cent would frequently prompt me to pray when I forgot," said Anders. For almost 4 decades, Arthur Anders had placed his confidence in the pennies he collected. With each passing year, his faith in God only deepened. His religion inspired him to begin saving money. Every dime he discovered seemed like a gift from God, but he had no clue how many more presents he would receive over the course of his lifetime. Anders didn't know that after he found his first penny, his love would keep giving him more. Soon, he was so into it that he started saving his own pennies to buy things for it. He also started making more and more decisions that gave him more pennies. He always made sure there were pennies in his change. He soon had so many pennies that he didn't know what to do with them. "I'd crack $1 before giving up a penny," Anders said. As soon as the youngsters in his care saw how much he valued pennies, they were eager to pitch in. "I never let anyone, not even my wife or kids, give me pennies without paying me for them," he says. He did pay them back for the pennies they gave him, though. Anders was very proud of his collection of pennies, which he loved very much. He said, "I wanted to know that God and I worked together to get this collection. If I was at someone's house and found a penny, I would pick it up and keep it. I would always tell the person that if it were a quarter, I would give it back, but since it's a penny, I'm keeping it." Anders kept his pennies in plastic jugs that held 5 gallons. Soon, he had 15 of them in his collection. He probably would have kept doing what he was obsessed with if he hadn't found a way out when he had to take care of things at home. He didn't think it was true. Anders would have kept his collection and kept picking up pennies for many years if he could have, but life would throw him a curveball. Anders could have made a lot of money from his collection, so he made sure that it was covered by his home insurance. However, when he went to renew it, they turned him down. They weren't the only place to do it, though. Anders' new home insurance didn't cover his penny collection, so he went to the bank and turned in his most prized possession. Anders didn't know how much money he would get from his collection. But as he thought about it, he remembered reading about a person who saved coins and then sold them for a lot of money. Even though most of the coins in Anders' collection are modern pennies, it's crazy to think that if he kept them long enough, they could make him a $1 million fortune. The person who owned a 1943 Lincoln wheat penny lost it. Because of a mistake on the coin, it was very valuable, and its value could only go up over time. How come? People have said for a long time that time is the most valuable thing. This is especially true for coins, but only for some types of coins. In particular, the value of coins made of gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and even copper can change over time, but they usually become more valuable. The same goes for coins that have a mistake on them. But that's not true for every coin. Base metal coins, like those made of aluminum, aren't worth much. If the government that made the coins is no longer around, they are even less valuable. But what about the coins Anders had? Where did they fall in terms of value? Anders didn't have time on his side, but he did have a lot of things to say. And with tens of thousands of coins, maybe one had a mistake that was worth a lot. Anders needed help to get the coins to the Ruston Origina Bank in Ruston, LA. He finally enlisted the aid of a few pals when he needed to transport a large quantity of pennies from his home to the bank in 5-gallon jugs. There were 15 of them, and they weighed a lot more than you'd expect. The bank employees looked at Anders as he brought his boxes in on dollies and just stared at him. When they saw how many coins there were, their eyes popped out of their heads. Anders was afraid that they would not let him in. He went up to the person behind the desk, who looked suspicious, and asked them to cash in his pennies. "How many?" asked the woman. The bank's vice president, Jenny Cole, said to reporters that it was unusual for Anders to bring in a dolly load of pennies. Anders said, "I don't know for sure. Between 400 and 500,000 pennies?" The woman just stared at him. How can they count all of these pennies? But when they finally did, Anders was shocked by how much he had saved over the years. Anders laughed with her in a shy way before begging her again. I know it's a crazy amount, but I need to cash out this collection of things I love. Believe me, if I could keep these pennies forever, I would." Before calling her manager, the woman gave Anders a long look. How can they count all of these pennies? But when they finally did, Anders was shocked to see how much he had saved over the years. When the manager came out to find out what was going on, his face lit up when he saw Anders. He knew Anders pretty well, it turned out. Anders had been a customer for a long time and had never caused any trouble, so they knew right away that they wanted to help him. "Like all of our customers, we appreciate his business," she said. "But if we can help Anders with his plans, we'd be glad to." With an axe and a hammer, the plastic jugs were broken open. At least 5 hours passed before a machine that counts coins could figure out how much money he had. Anders and his friends brought each box in one at a time. People from the company got together to watch the first 5-gallon container get counted. It was the most interesting thing to happen at the bank in a long time. Anders put away a huge $5,136.14 by saving pennies for 45 years. For anyone trying to figure it out, that's $114.14 a year that Anders made by picking up old, dirty pennies that people had left on the side of the road. But what would he do with the money he had saved? After putting money away for 45 years, Anders was able to use it to pay a dental bill that had just come due. Anders saved pennies, not because he was greedy, but because he believed that God, the universe, the penny gods, or whatever you believe in, would take care of him. His strange hobby turned out to be a great way to show how important the little things are. Who would have thought that putting away a penny a day could bring you $5,000 one day? It looks like Anders' patience and good wishes have paid off for him. He needed the extra money to pay a medical bill, and he got it just in time. People say that the world works in mysterious ways, which is certainly true for Arthur Anders and the result of his penny collection.